Hello there, one and all. Welcome to Hobos of Happy Slappy Town, Slapendipity. I am Eric, who you may call Eric, and with me is Gibby, who you may call Devon.
And with me is Eric, finally back under the bridge. He's returned home. My son has returned from war.
I mean, you don't gotta put it like that. I'm older than you.
That's I told you, time doesn't exist under the Anywen bridge. It's fine. It doesn't matter.
No, don't make it weird.
Okay. The vacation trip journey adventure you've been on for the last couple episodes has reached its end, and you have returned home safe and sound. No, not to
Yes.
spoil it, but you have returned home safe and sound.
Yeah,
All right.
there is still a lot to talk about from it, so
Yeah, so I think that we should just jump right on into those stories because my life has been very boring. I have been going to work. I've been doing nothing at work. I have been sleeping. So for you, I think going on your grand adventure, you've been going on enough adventure for both of us.
lols.
So I think we should start
Probably.
start with your story.
Okay, well, last we left off, it was in New Orleans, right?
Norlin. Yes.
So we really only had one place left to go after New Orleans, and that was Tennessee.
The land of
But we talked
puns.
about that. Yes, the land of puns. And the reason we went to the land of puns was so we could go to Dollywood.
Hmm.
Dollywood is a theme park, amusement park place centered around Dolly Parton, and its aesthetic is like her childhood.
Oh.
So it's and not in like a Barbie-esque way, but in like a here's the lumberjack area and here's the mines because she's 78.
Yeah.
Um so when she was a child it was like I don't the 40s, 50s. I'm like she grew up in such a different time. And they recreated like her childhood room, and it was just like a quilt on a bed and a lamp, like a oil lantern to get around, and that's it. And like a wooden chair and whatever. Anyway, but so it's very much like you know stuff like that. There's some water wheels throughout it. Their most recent edition is called like Wildwood Grove, and the like story idea behind it is that like this little girl runs away from her home, or it just like goes exploring in the woods, and she stumbles upon this grove in this big great tree, and it like she can get away from all the hustle and bustle and hard life of you know working in the mines.
Did she work in the mines, or like that was just what happened in her
No,
town? Like her daddy worked in the mines.
I think her dad or something. I don't know the exact thing. But it was more so to recreate the vibe
So,
again. So I don't know that anyone in her family specifically worked in the mines. She had 10 brothers, so statistically, I someone probably did.
were there roller coasters
There were.
through the
So
mines?
yes, that was my favorite one.
Yes, minecart madness.
No, Mystery Mine.
Okay, tell me about them.
Mystery Mine. Um, so Wild Grove was basically the kid section. It had a lot more kid rides. It had like one or two like intermediate rides, you could call it. And that was kind of it's a small park. We did everything more or less, depending on how you want to include everything, right? In a day, in half a day, arguably. but then we just stayed. Um, so Jesus was very excited to go to this. So we woke up at 8:30 so we could be there by 9:20 when the park opened at 10, and we stayed there until 9 when it closed.
So you were there for
Eh,
11 hours?
more or less.
Is he a big Dolly Parton fan?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Listen, I'm a connoisseur of country music. For 25 years of my life, that was all I listened to. Um, and I think that Dolly Parton is kinda neat. She has two songs that I know well.
Dang.
She's not exactly at like the top of my list for like the greatest people ever, but 9 to 5 and Jolene, those are some bops.
Mm,
I wouldn't say no to going to Dollywood, but I'm not like obsessed with her.
sure. I mean, he's not obsessed either.
Hmm.
Um, he even told me like, oh, she has this book about like where she describes her own song lyrics and like the inspiration or what they mean or whatever. And he was like, I've always thought about getting this book, but I always think I'm not a big enough fan of her to get it, to, like worth buying it. And he was like, you know what? I'm at Dollywood. Like, clearly I have to be, right? Um, so he bought that book while we were there.
That's cool.
Um, but Mystery Mine is probably the best ride there in terms of like story and like it being a ride as a roller coaster. Um, it's I, all of the stories are very implicit, if they're there at all. So outside of the ride, there is this animatronic vulture talking crap, and he's just like, "Oh, you think you're hot stuff, huh? You going into the mines? Oh, you're about to get it, huh?" But then he's also like, "Isn't it weird how cool and handsome I am? Because my dad's a buzzard." So I should have been ugly, but he's not.
He seems like a
He's
nicer a
cool.
nicer animatronic than the ones I dealt with this week, but you can continue your story.
Lols. So then there's like the story of the mine is like there's a lot of weird happenings, and we think there's like a witch living in it, and because you like get sent through like a portal kind of. It also has vertical ascents, which is what like a pure 90-degree go up. And I've never
Oh,
experienced that on a coaster before. There's always at least a little bit of a incline, and this one was like, no, you're going up.
are you sitting down going up or on your back going up?
Well, so the ride you sit down in,
Mm-hmm.
but then as you have to go up,
Yep.
you lay on your back.
Okay, so you're facing the sky when this is happening.
Yes.
Terrifying. Hate it.
Terrifying. You get used to it after like the third time.
The third vertical
And
incline or the third?
the third time riding.
Oh, okay, so you went on it more
There's
than
only
you went on it many times.
oh, we easily went on it like 8 times.
Oh my God. See that there's this one roller coaster at I think Dorney Park, which is kind of close to Happy Slappy. We're like there's like a lot of amusement parks around us. Um and there's this one ride that's like one of my favorites of all time, and it's just like this little dangly coaster and it whips you around, and literally I went on it like 4 times in a row because like there was no
Hmm,
line the day I was there. Was it like crowded?
nice. No, not at all.
Okay.
There was probably a couple hundred people.
Uh-huh.
So there were there was we waited in line for a few minutes like 2 times because there was one ride that was like down for regular maintenance. So when that got cleared, there was a bit of a line. And then there was like some other big ride that there was like a line. and then that was it. And then there were no more lines.
Hmm. Did you do like 8 times in a row, or you went like 3 times in a row, and then you went and got lunch, you did something, and then you guys were walking past it again, and one of you went, "Hey, do you want to ride the mine carts again?"
Yeah, closer to that.
Okay.
Um, because we did all of the adult rides and like the big fast ones, because there's only like 10 of them. So it was very easy to be like, well, we're staying here until nighttime because Jesus wants to see the park at night because it's dressed up for the fall festival, so it'll look extra cool at night. So I guess we're gonna ride Mystery Mines again. Okay.
Did it look cool at night for the fall festival?
It did look cool at night for the fall festival. There
Sound,
were a lot of pumpkins. There were a lot of glowing pumpkins.
sounds like a better fall festival than I had to deal with. But we're not talking about me. Continue.
Do you want to talk about it?
No, no, I'm just leaving this bread trail of crumbs to refer back
Okay.
to later.
Okay. Um, yeah. Overall, it was a cool time. We explored the bus she toured in. That's in there for some reason. I mean, not for some reason. It's very obvious why. Um, she had two bathtubs or bathrooms in it. Um, she had a full size bed in the back. Crazy.
Crazy. Did you get to go in
Um,
the bathtub?
no,
Were they
no.
were they
I
selling
I don't know if I would have fit.
were they selling country girl water? Bath water?
No,
Okay.
no,
Dolly Parton bath water. They didn't have that there? I'm shocked.
no, no. You know what they did have? They had a chapel,
Okay.
and you could religion there.
For confessing your sins like wanting Dolly Parton bath water.
Yeah.
You go to the guy behind the desk and you ask for some, and he's like, right through here, and it just brings you right into the church.
We did eat. Dolly Parton is famous for this one food called cinnamon bread.
Okay.
Remember that time you made me eat a cinnamon roll swirl?
Yes, we had Cinnabons earlier in the show at the mall.
Imagine if it was a loaf of bread.
Okay. Did it still have like frosting on it?
You got frosting on the side.
Okay. So that kind of sounds like
So that
this,
was.
like cinnamon breadsticks from Domino's.
I haven't had those, so well,
Oh,
maybe.
okay. Well, sucks for you.
I guess. Um, we watched a lot of videos beforehand on like people's recommendations for food and the brides and stuff, and everyone overhyped the cinnamon bread. It was still good, but like people were like, "Oh, this is like a life-changing experience. Oh my gosh, it's the best dessert I've ever had." And it's like, no, it was fine. It was if you've had a Cinnabon, it's a very similar taste profile, and I I don't think it's much higher. Like obviously it's a higher quality, but like I'm not writing books about it or anything.
So okay,
And
you said you watched like
mhm.
videos about it. Are you telling me that there's like a Jenny Nicholson but for Dollywood?
Yes, and like there's not a dedicated channel like Jenny Nicholson for Dollywood, but there are some YouTube channels that are like, we cover theme parks and this episode's on Dollywood.
But there's like 5 things to do at Dollywood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, hey, remember how bees were so thirsty that they tried to drink sweat off of people at one point in the trip?
I recall that from an earlier campsite story.
So this time around, there were so many soda fountains, and you can't really protect a soda fountain, and they're filled with sugar. So wasps were like, yo, let me get that sugar. And it made it very hard to try and get a drink.
So this time you were being drunken by wasps. Okay.
Um, and then if you're going to spend a full day at a park, you need to take care of yourself, and you can't try to be all meticulous and plan things out to an extent. Because in my brain, I will eat dinner at 8 o'clock because then I'll be nice and full for a while, and I can just go to bed because I'm sure I'll be tired. But at 8 o'clock, places are starting to close in the park,
Hmm.
like the restaurants and stuff, because the park closes at 9 o'clock and they want to go home. So they're closing the park down, or starting to, like their little food stations or whatever. And it's like, oh, can I get this thing with the a chicken tender mac and cheese bowl? And the person goes, "Oh, we're out of mac and cheese." And just giving me a look the entire time, and I was like, I've worked in food. I understand. You totally have mac and cheese, but you're not gonna give it to me because you're not making it anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We had a there was a cook who should have known better who was closing, and we had a guy come up like 1 minute after closing. He's like, "Can I get a pretzel stick?" I'm like, "Well, pretzel sticks are the easiest thing in the world, so I'll go back and see if they're like still available." And so I go back to the kitchen. I'm like, "Hey guys, I know that we closed 1 minute ago, but can we make pretzel sticks?" And the cook looks over at me and he's like, "Well, then we'd have to like turn on the oven and like it takes like half hour to heat up." And I'm like, "Well, if you turned off the oven 1 minute ago, it should still be hot." And he looks at me and he's like, "No, we turned off the oven like half hour ago." And
Wild.
I'm like, "Well, we just closed. So like, if someone had ordered pretzel sticks 5 minutes ago when we were open, what would you have done?" And he just kind of like looks around. He's like, "I don't know. I didn't really think about it." I'm like, "Dude, like, I know that we're very lenient with pre-closing, but you can't turn off the stuff while we're open. Like, you can clean up. You can maybe take down one fryer instead of both, but you can't turn off. Also, like, there's no reason to turn off the oven early because literally all you do is turn it off. You don't need to like clean the inside or anything. You can't turn off the
Well,
oven before we close." I thought it'd be
no, yeah,
quite the
especially
city.
since to turn it off, you just press a button.
Yeah, like we obviously, movie theater, we have some stuff that's very in depth to clean, like our popcorn machine, and then we have some stuff that's not, like the icy machine, which is literally just an on-off switch. And sometimes if we turn it off and then someone comes up to us after we close and they're like, "Can I get an icy?" I'll be like, "Sure," because even though it's off, it's still frozen. But there have been times where like the first thing that our guys turn off is the icy machine, and I'm like, "Why?" Like
Mm,
that can just be the last button you hit before you walk out. Why you turn that off first? It's not like it takes any effort.
yeah,
So yeah, very very interesting. But you think that these guys weren't actually out of mac and cheese? They just didn't want to
they just
rev
didn't
up
wanna.
those fryers.
Yeah, 100% my thought,
Hmm.
which is fine. Which is fine. Um, it just made food getting difficult. Um, so to wrap up this portion a little bit, we spend 11 hours here, as you said. I, at a few hours to go, right? Maybe around like 6 o'clock or something. Jesus, we ride the fastest, tallest, biggest ride they have. And it was crazy. Easily beats any thrill ride Disney has by a mile. And maybe even Universal Studios in Florida, which is known for having more thrill rides than Disney. And we get off the ride and Jesus goes, "I'm seeing spots
Oh no.
in my vision." And I'm like, "Okay, well, we can sit down, we can eat and drink some water, and I don't know." And he's like, So we take a little break. We try and get it situated, and he Googles it and finds out all these things. And I was like, well, one of the things I can think of, like, you're breathing on the rides, right? And he's like, what? And I'm like, you're breathing the entire time, right? And he's like, I don't know if I am. And I went, oh no.
What?
Take a bunch of deep
How do
breaths.
you not breathe?
Because you just tense up so much
Huh.
that you just, especially for like the more intense rides, right? Where it's like, oh, do 3 loop-de-loops in a row. And you're just like, I think it's probably some type of fear thing, right? Like the freeze reaction, but taken to the nth level.
But like, do you not scream on roller coasters? Because that's part of the fun. You scream.
Well, yes, but all of your screaming is exhaling.
But then you have to
You're not
inhale.
inhaling.
You got to inhale to exhale.
You don't have
I
to.
learned about this from Mr. Isaac Newton. For every inhale, you scream on a roller coaster. Okay, that's physics.
I don't know. We kind of concluded we don't know the exact cause for the spots, but like they did eventually go away, and he did realize he was not breathing on rides, despite also screaming. Um, so he just focused more on his breathing during rides, and then my little sickness kicked in a little bit, and I was just kind of tired. I thought I was walking on a pebble. It turns out it was a blister. I hadn't eaten a ton. We ate lunch probably around, I don't know, 1 o'clock, maybe noon. And I was like, oh, I'm not gonna eat dinner until 8, but then places are closing, so oy. And so then it's like 9, and we're like, what are we eating? And there's an Applebee's nearby, so we're like, okay, that's good enough. And we go to this Applebee's, and I'm like, I just want chicken tenders and mashed potatoes in whatever form. The waitress seats us. It's very nice. She's very polite the entire time. She gets it, I think. I think she knew we came from Dollywood, especially because the Applebee's is open like an hour or two after Dollywood closes. And I was like, yes, this is a smart business decision. So, or she's like, oh, what would you like to drink? And it's like, can we have water? We need water. She's like, okay, sure. She leaves. We drink all of our water within a minute. She comes back and she's like, oh, are you ready to order? Oh, should I get you more water? And I was like, can we have a pitcher of water? She was like, yeah, sure thing. And she's just like, I didn't know you could do that. It's like, yeah.
Did you
So
guys
then,
did you guys like were you drinking while you were there, but specifically were you drinking stuff with like electrolytes? Like not just plain water, but like lemonade or
no,
Gatorade?
we
You
were
weren't
not drinking
you weren't
Gatorades
staying
or
hydrated?
anything. We were drinking waters, probably not enough.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't eat enough,
Hmm. Judging.
etc. Hey
Did
man,
you wear sunscreen?
Jesus was very good about it. I was less good about it. I put it on a little bit in the morning and I was like, "Oh, I'm fine." And then I think it wore off at some point, especially considering we did 2 water rides.
Oh, and you don't think that you got the waterproof sunny
I
screen?
have no idea.
Okay, so wait, you did
Um,
2 water rides? Were you like was this entire adventure in bathing suits or did you change for the water rides?
Neither. We were
Oh,
just in our clothes.
you got soaked.
Um, no, so one water ride is like it's very slow, and it's kind of like a just a go around thing. And then the way that physics works, there is a drop for it, but it's shooting the water forward. So you're getting like a little bit of splashback, but kind of like if you just like walked through like a mister or something. The other water ride did get us soaking wet. Me more so than some people because it like spins the entire time. So if you're just unlucky, you get more wet. Um, but that's what the fast rides were for, to dry us off.
Yes, I agree.
But so we're at this Applebee's. We go to place our orders. We Jesus places his, and it's my turn. And I was like, chicken tenders. She was like, do you want the 5 one or the 7-piece one? And I go, uh. And then Jesus goes, he wants the 7-piece. And I go, okay. And the waitress is like, that's fine, but you get an extra side. What would you like your extra side to be? And I look at her, dumbfounded, and I'm like, what? And she was like, like fries or green beans or broccoli or something like that. And I just look at her like I what and she's like, it's just another side. You can get another helping of mashed potato. And I was like, I can I get the 5-piece? She said, okay. And I was just too drained to make a decision on my extra side. And I've never been broken by such a simple question before.
Your brain was just like, I need the food. I did stop giving me more decisions. Just give me the chicky fingies.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. So we get the chicken fingies. We go to the Airbnb, which sucked.
Oh.
It was the vibe was nice, which is what Jesus wanted. He wanted a vibe.
It's what Jesus
It
would
was
want.
pioneer
Good vibes.
vibe. It was this little log cabin in the middle of the woods on the edge of a cliff. But the gravel roads that you drove uphill to get to for half a mile were just not great. And because we're driving a van, you can't make turns easy, and it's a 1-car road. And we had to turn around. Like, we had to pass the house so that we could turn around to pull into the driveway. It, the water reeked of sulfur because they had a well. It was their own water. And I guess they made it smell like sulfur so you could tell. I have no idea. But it reeked, and it was in all, if you wanted tap water, if you wanted to shower, it was gross. Um, we drank from our own water from the van.
Because that was like
Anyway,
tastier.
no, because we didn't trust the water because
Oh.
it smelled like sulfur.
Oh, but that can be good for your immune system. No, it can't. That's not
I,
medical advice. I know nothing of this topic.
yeah, we didn't either. It was just very off-putting. Maybe it is healthy, maybe it's not. I have no idea, but we were just like, this is gross. No, thank you. So we get to the Airbnb. It's like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and Jesus is like doing his thing, whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to bed. And he's like, you're going to bed? And I'm like, I'm going to bed. I lay down and I get like shivers. My nose becomes congested. I'm so hot. Like sunburn, I'm sure, but also just like sick hot. My jugulars feel swollen, and I'm just like, oh no. Uh, so I got sick. I don't know if it was sun poisoning. I don't think it was food poisoning, but I guess it could have been. I don't know if it was like dehydration. Uh, I don't think it was, but tonight I took a bunch of ibuprofen, went to bed, sweated it out, and then woke up in the morning, and I was like, I feel mostly fine. And my neck was sore too, very stiff, which may have been like the pillows and stuff.
Do you have good pillows, like in your van?
Of course. I took my pillows from home.
Oh, that makes sense. I don't know why. I
Uh,
guess because I grew up in, like, my dad had a camper, and the camper had its own pillows that, like, sucked. Bad pillows. Like, literally, I can still smell them
mm,
and feel them on my face. Yeah, I guess bringing pillows from home makes more sense than having van pillows. I don't know why that is such a surprise to me.
I don't know what to tell you.
I'm just dumb.
Um, you just lived a certain way, and now there's a new way to live.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you while you were in the park? Just because I haven't been to an amusement park in a very long time, and given how thematic that one is in particular, as like an amusement park enthusiast, given that you've been to like seven in the last year or two, um, would you say that their um, quality of life aspects were high, average, or low for things like having lockers at the gate to put your phone in, or the map being easily readable, or the staff members being cool? Like, how would you rate Dollywood on those ease of life aspects?
I'd rate it pretty high, I guess. So one of they had lockers outside of the basic, like the entrances to like a new area or to like where the big rides are, which you had to pay for, which I think they all do that.
That
But then
sucks.
you can also, right, normally you have to like climb stairs. There is an elevator for uh handicapped people to ride up. But like you get to like, where you sit down for the ride, the little seat, and they all have little like cubbies or like a super long bench that's like um kind of like a crate, so it's got, you know, pieces of wood on the side of it to make sure so you can like put your stuff into.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Um,
Like, if you have a fanny pack, if you have a water bottle, if you have your cell phone and your
yeah,
keys, you don't want to take them on the ride, you put them in this little area off to the
yeah,
side before the ride.
yeah.
Okay.
There was only one ride that made Jesus take off his fanny pack, and that was the biggest, fastest one. And we were like, oh, I see why he forced you to take it off.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm glad that Jesus is a fanny pack enthusiast, because that is the correct option. Fanny packs are like god tier,
mm,
so I'm
yeah,
glad that Jesus used them.
I had everything in my pockets, and then I was like, oh, we're going on a ride. Will you put this in your fanny
Hmm.
pack? And he was like,
Hmm.
you jerk.
Everyone makes fun of the fanny pack
Um,
guy until it's time for literally anything to happen because fanny packs are goaded.
yeah. Um, but yeah, and the food was good. Um, there was one small, so minor. I would not hold it against them, but Dollywood slash Dolly Parton is big on butterflies. It's like her favorite animal ever, and it's heavily butterfly stuff around. And in the YouTube videos, if you watch them, you can get a pretzel in the shape of a butterfly.
Hmm.
And in trying to search for this, I could not find it. So I went into this random candy shop and I was like, is this a thing? I can't find it. And they were like, no, that's not here. And I was like, oh. And the lady, like younger lady, like around our age, was like, did you watch it on a YouTube video or something? And I was like, yes. And she was like, yeah, that's not a fall festival food that was probably just during the summer when it was like uh, whatever festival. And I was
Hmm.
like, okay. And then we walked out, and Jesus was like, but why isn't that a year-round food? Like, you don't go to Disney World and then try to get a Mickey Mouse pretzel only to discover it's a festival food. That's just a staple food, which I do agree.
I can
Um,
see disagreeing for one reason, which is like the locals probably go there a lot, and let's say you get bored of the park, and then someone's like, "Hey, for this season only, there's the butterfly pretzels," right? Like every 6 months they change the theme so that locals feel like
okay,
they get something more out of going.
that would make sense, except there was no pretzel to replace it. It was just normal pretzels now.
Okay, I guess. I
So like there wasn't a pumpkin pretzel. It was just like a normal boring pretzel. So it's like, okay, that would make sense if you had the new shape, but you don't.
I thought you were gonna say that they had butterflies flying everywhere.
No.
And then like they were gonna do
Um
battles with the wasps.
Lols, no. There is an eagle preserve in the park. Um we also took a train because it has its own train. Uh and there's an emergency line you can pull if you're having a true medical emergency, but getting coal in your eye is not a true medical emergency. And I did get coal in my eye, and I just had to deal with that for like an hour.
Oh, that really sucks.
um so no funno.
Do you think
um
in the inevitable um you know Taylor Swift theme park that will exist in our lifetimes that there would be like wild cats running around? Because I know that there's cats in Disneyland, right, to like kill mice or something, like there's feral cats that run around.
sure.
Do you think that there's gonna be like cat themed stuff?
I mean, doesn't she like
She
cats?
loves cats. Yeah, that's the point. When you were saying butterflies,
Some
I'm imagining like, oh, wild butterflies, and then I thought, oh, Taylor is probably gonna
no.
be cats everywhere.
No, so there weren't like butterflies roaming around. It was just like if you saw a decoration, 50% of the time it was butterfly shaped or themed or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, Dollywood didn't have any feral cats, or none that I saw.
Just wasps.
Just wasps, um, and eagles, and some other birds of prey.
Were they okay? So like typically you walk around an amusement park. I'm just kind of thinking of like Six Flags and all those fun places. And there's like giant speakers and they're playing music and pop hits and like, whatever the
Yes,
radio that
yes,
grocery store music.
right.
Okay, so like did they play grocery store music or country music or only Dolly Parton? Because I'm not
Only Dolly Parton because you're in Dollywood.
that's kind of what I thought, but that's still just like I don't know, it's kind of funny.
I mean, she started making music at 14,
Mm.
so she has like 60 years of music for you to listen to. So, and there were some live bands that were there and played. So, like, obviously the speakers weren't around those places and you could listen to whatever they performed. And then, like, the Mystery Mine had its own song um, that they, like, made up for it. And there were a few other rides like that. So you weren't constantly hearing Dolly Parton music.
Don't worry, guys. If you go to Dollywood, you won't constantly be hearing Dolly Parton.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to Dollywood. You should have some level of expectation for that.
Does she ever like make
Um,
appearances there? Wait. Is there like an animatronic Dolly Parton in any of
no.
the theaters or
There is
anything? No, that's so sad.
there is one animatronic in the entire park,
Hmm.
and it is that vulture that I brought up earlier.
I was thinking of like the Hall of Presidents at Disney, but it's just like Dolly Parton through the years. That would be an attraction.
There was a museum that we didn't go into because neither of us cared about it. So like maybe there's something in there, but it didn't sound like it. There was also like a Dollywood fashion shop,
Mm-hmm.
but it just had like it did have like an iconic outfit of hers, like in glass or whatever, but it didn't. And then you could just buy like T-shirts and stuff that she would wear, I guess. Um, but no, nothing. Yeah, but that's kind of it. And I'm looking at my notes and I realized I have New Orleans things to tell you.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
So we're gonna go back in
Yeah.
time.
Time doesn't exist in the Anywin Bridge. We'll just back it up a little bit, and we'll go back to New
Um,
Orleans.
so in New Orleans, we rented an Airbnb, because you're not gonna find a national park nearby. Um, so we go into our Airbnb. It is so the hosts of the Airbnb have like this duplex, and then behind the duplex is like a studio apartment essentially, um, which kind of seemed like the norm. Um, but so we had to check in late because they messaged us of like, hey, we were getting the floors replaced, and then my like contractor quit on me, so I have to do it myself. Is it okay if you come in at like 5 or 6 instead of the normal check-in time, which I think was like 1 or 3? We were like, that's fine, we'll just hang out. So we just hang out. We go to 3 different museums. We get some food. We get a drink. It's time to check in. And he goes, oh, I'm so sorry about that. Like, but thank you for waiting. And like, it's all good. And we're like, okay, cool. And we like settle in a little bit. And I go on the bed and I'm like, yay, a bed. And I like go to the bathroom, whatever, come out. Jesus plops on the bed. And he plops on the bed in the top corner of it, and the bed goes through the floor.
Oh my god.
he he's fine. Again, we came back from the trip. Everyone's fine.
I thought you were gonna say like, oh, and then the bed broke. The bed broke the floor?
Yes. Well,
What?
so and it was like not the entire floor, just in that corner. So the bed had 6 legs instead of 4. 2 were in the middle. And the 4 legs of the middle and the bottom perfectly fine. They're on the floor like normal. The corner where Jesus plopped down, the leg went through the floor, and then we noticed the opposite corner on the top side, there was no leg. So
Oh. So all the
we
weight
were
was
like,
in one front toppy leg.
yes, and they had just replaced the floors, and he did it himself, which not as a like shot to him, but like, So Jesus is like, "Oh my gosh, what do we do? We have to fix this ourselves." And I'm like, "No, we message the guy." So he does, and the guy comes straight over. He sends a message, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Rushes over. His wife rushes over and is like, we're sorry. We're sorry. Are you okay?" And we're like, yeah, yeah, we're fine. And the wife was like, I was telling him like he shouldn't do it himself. These floors are from the 1800s, like we should have just left it. We should. And the guy is just like like figuring out what he's gonna do. We lift the bed up with him, and he like gets this like uh he's an arborist, so I guess he just has like wood laying around and stuff. He got like some heavy duty planks, covered the hole with that, and then got a cinder block to act as a leg for the missing one. And he was like, I'm sorry, this is the best I can do. Here, you test it out, please. And we did. And it was fine, and it was sturdy. And they were just like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
And he's
And he
like,
was
don't worry, guys. This will not be the worst Airbnb you have on this trip. At least we don't have sulfur in our water.
exactly. And he had brought this up before, but he re-emphasized. He was like, if you guys need anything at all, just call me or message me. Like, even if you're drunk at 4 a.m. and you need someone to pick you up, you can call me. And we were like, thank you very much. That's very kind. We're not gonna do stuff like that, but thank you. And that's the big drama with the New Orleans. Oh, except the day we were leaving, right? Again, they like, you know, like literally less than a minute away from us because they own the property and we're on their property. So as we're like putting our stuff back into the van, he's just out on his stoop, drinking something or reading the paper or whatever, and he's
Drinking moonshine on his rocking chair on the front porch.
no, you sit on the stair, Devin.
On the
Gosh,
stoop.
get your stoop culture right.
I'm sorry. We just don't have a thriving stoop culture here in Happy Slappy Town.
And he's like, again, I'm so sorry. Are you sure you need anything? And I'm like, oh, we're good, we're good. He's like, well, if you're ever back in New Orleans, please feel free to contact us. We'll get you like a discounted rate or something, or like we'll figure out a way to like make this up to you. If you and your boyfriend, brother.
No!
So,
Hmm.
you know,
Just keeps happening.
that's it just keeps happening. Um, and that's fine, I guess. And I have one last New Orleans thing, and I kind of want your opinion on this because I don't know if I'm the jerk or not.
Okay.
We go to a outdoor cafe essentially, and the waitress that we end up having is like, "Oh, you just sit wherever." So we sit down, and we're trying to get beignets. You know what a beignet is?
Not even a little bit.
Okay, imagine fried dough with powdered sugar on it.
Okay. Funnel cake.
That's
Got
it.
it.
It's funnel cake, but like the shape is like a ravioli kind of thing, but
Okay.
bigger.
Okay.
It's just not like a bunch of strips and noodles. It's like just a square.
Okay, so if funnel cake is spaghetti, it is a ravioli.
Yes.
Understandable.
Um. And that's what we're there for because I haven't had them. And then I look around and see a sign that's like cash only, and I ask the waitress, "Is this place cash only?" And she goes, "Yes." And I go, "Okay, we don't have cash." And she goes, "Well, there's an ATM down the street, like across the street rather, in that place over there." And I was like, "Okay." And I look at Jesus and I'm like, we gotta get cash." And he's just sitting there, and I'm like, "Okay, fine, whatever." So I get up, go across the street, walk down the street because I don't see an ATM, walk down the street again to notice the ATM was inside a shop, get cash, come back. The waitress has been talking to Jesus this entire time, and I sit down. And she's like, "Oh, great. So what do you have?" And I'm just like, beignets and hot chocolate, and Jesus got some coffee thing. And we're like, cool. And she walks away, and I notice people come in with a mop bucket and they like dump water all over the ground. Keep in mind this is outdoors, and they're just dumping water. I'm like, what is what? Okay, that's fine. I guess they're cleaning or something. That's weird. We uh get our stuff. Um, there's another waiter. These people are still dumping water. They're doing it for a while, and they're like mopping, and I'm like, I missed something. And the waiter, a different waiter, is like, "Hi everyone, look at me. Hi, how are you doing? What's going on?" Because he's embarrassed that people are cleaning stuff that way right now. Because again, they have a mop bucket and the mop, and they're using it, but they're also just dumping the water onto the ground. And so we get our food and stuff. The beignet is fine. It's good. I thought it would be more fun if there was like a chocolate sauce on it or that you could dip into it. There wasn't. So then we're done. We're ready to go. And the waitress comes up and she's like, "Oh, it's this much money." And I'm like, "Okay, here's a 20." And she's like, "Okay." She is like, it was like, I don't know, $12, let's say, $13. And she's like, "Okay, you have a 20, it was 13." And then she like leans over onto the table and then pulls out like, "Okay, you had a 20, it costs 13. So that's 1, 2, and a 5, that's $7." And workers really appreciate gratuity.
So wait,
And I
you
go,
you were leaving a $7 tip and she's
"No, she's giving me back my change from paying
Oh,
the
okay,
bill."
okay, okay.
And she's counting it out on the table, leaning over.
Hmm.
So her like, our faces are next to each other.
Okay.
And I'm like, "Okay, thank you." And I just kind of take the change. And then she like rolls her eyes and walks away.
Oh.
And I'm like, I, what? So I put the 5
Hmm.
on the table, and I'm like, "Are you ready to leave?" And he's like, "Jesus." And he's like, "Yeah, more or less, but like, why aren't you giving her the 5?" And I was like, "I don't want to give her like hand her the 5." And I was like, "I don't want to hand her the 5." And he was like, "Why not? That's weird. Like, just get up and do it." And I was like, "You do it then if you care so much. It's on the table. She'll see it." And he's like, "Whatever." And so then we leave, and we're both like, "What happened to the other?" So I explained, he didn't see that she rolled her eyes at me, and I was like, I just didn't want to
Maybe
her.
maybe it's a cultural thing, but like here, when you're leaving the tip for the waiter and the waitress and the whatever, you leave it on the table when you get up and leave. You pay the
Mhm.
bill, and then the dirty dishes are maybe still on the table, whatever, and you leave money. If you're paying with cash, obviously you can always leave a tip with a credit card, but you leave the cash on the table. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
southern Louisiana thing, or maybe because it was outside and you just don't want to leave cash around and she expected you to physically hand it to her. But for her, before you're at the point of the payment where you leave the tip, to complain that you're not giving her a tip, like that's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah, and it was like right at the same, like she was like counting back my change to me like a child,
Hmm.
and then being like, "Oh, we appreciate critique." And I was like, this feels weird. I don't want to interact with you anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and so I explained that to him, and he was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense." And I was like, "What happened with the mops and stuff?" And he was like, "Oh, some lady got up and was like, and just threw up everywhere
Oh.
because in New Orleans, you can drink on the street."
Yep. Yep.
So this woman was just gone, threw up on the ground, and that's why the mop buckets and stuff was happening. And then, like, they weren't paying attention to where people were sitting. So when they dumped the mop bucket, some of the bile went to where people were sitting. So then those people had to get up and move to different places, which is why the other waiter was making such a scene of like, "Hi, how are you doing? What's going on?" Because he's embarrassed, but then also is like, "Please don't notice that we low key threw vomit at
Oh my
people."
god.
I was like, and it was Cafe Du Monde
Mm-hmm.
or something,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't feel bad about
Mm-hmm.
saying, because it's like the biggest, bestest place there. And I was like, this was mid at best. The hot chocolate was whatever. The beignets were fine. And like the staff was just weird. It was just a lot of chaotic energy.
See, you know,
And then
if
the
something around here was called Cafe Du Monde, you'd think that like, oh, it's a fancy place. But in Louisiana, where they speak French, that's literally just like a thing.
yeah.
I'm looking at a picture now. It looks fine. Big green
Yeah,
awning,
it's fine.
kind of on the street, kind of behind a little fence gate.
Yeah.
And they only take
Mm-hmm.
cash? That's wild.
Yeah. The next day we went to a different cafe and they had, beignets, coffee things, and sandwiches. And they had beignets with chocolate sauce, and I was like, I want that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And I was right. Um, but yeah, that's my New Orleans stuff.
Wow, it truly was a an Orlean. Did you go drinking on the street?
I did, yeah.
Okay, and was
I
it
went to a
like,
jazz bar too.
wow, was it like, oh man, this is wild. I get to carry my really, really long drink down the road.
Um, no, it was whatever. I'm not that much of a drinker. I don't care about. It was nice to just like, oh, because like I wanted to see the French Quarter and stuff, and like just because we have a drink doesn't mean we have to be relegated to the indoors and like stay there like house pets. We could go out and explore while drinking.
How was the jazz?
The jazz was good. Um, I forget the name of the band. I'm so sorry. But we stayed there for 3 songs. One of them was about a chicken. One of them was about, like, getting into a fight. And I forget the third one.
Okay.
But it was good. It was good.
So that was New Orleans, but did you like make any other stops in Louisiana, or was
New
it literally just
Orleans.
into New Orleans
Yes,
and then
that
out?
was it.
That was it? Okay. What was the stop
The stop
before
before
that?
New Orleans?
Just so I have a yeah, so I have a mental map of where you
Texas.
were. So just like general Texas, New Orleans, and then Tennessee,
Yeah.
Dollywood. All right. Well, I think that it's good you didn't tell me that information before you left, because then I could have stalked you. I could have followed you. There could have been a big chase,
Oh
Legrand's
my
chase.
gosh. The
Did you know where I was going that
No, I
time?
thought you were gonna somehow talk about the fall festival that you had to deal with.
Oh no, just so obviously, I my last week I was on vacation from work, and so I was just making videos the whole time. When I say on vacation, what I mean is working harder and making less money. Fall Festival is a FNAF reference, and the animatronic you're talking about earlier is a Five Nights at Freddy's reference, because that's what my current YouTube job is talking about. Obviously, I talk about other things, and when in the future people look back on this podcast and this episode as a historic relic, and they're like, "Wow, I didn't know that President Eric and Nobel Prize laureate Gibby had a podcast." They'll be watching this and will just be like, yeah, so dating apps and Five Nights at Freddy's. They'll be like, what is this? So for context, that's what I'm doing currently. But yeah, no, it was just a funny little haha. Just a giggle, just a laugh for those in the know.
I don't want to be president.
Yes, you do. You will finish your dessert. No. Yes. Oh my god, I meant to say vegetables. You will finish your vegetables, and you
I
will
like
become president.
vegetables, and I don't want to be president.
It's one and the other. It's both.
No,
Those are your
no.
options. Okay. You will finish your dessert, which is a Benoit, but without
Beignet.
chocolate.
Oh, I forgot. You hate the French.
I literally don't know how to pronounce
Beignet.
it. You can't just say, "Oh my god, I forgot you hate the
You.
French." On an
Yes.
earlier episode, I said that I like pronouncing French words as anglicized as possible because it's
Uh huh. Uh huh.
humorous. Yeah, and then we blame the French for everything. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I don't even know how that word is spelled.
Beneigt. Don't quote me.
Uh, yeah, beignet. So that would be Beige-nets. Beige-net. Your beige-net with some powdered sugar.
Bruh, I don't even think that's the anglicized way to say it.
Beige-net? Or I guess big, big-nets. Big-nets.
It'd be like
Big-nets.
bee nets.
Big-nets. Yeah. You gotta say big like your video game donkey.
Well, we have
Big-nets.
silent G's.
Yeah, and where do you think that comes from, Eric?
Spain.
That's right, the French, probably. Just put on the
Okay.
Grand Chase. Just play it. Just play it. We've dug ourselves too deep into a
Oh
French
no.
hole.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.